Hello, if you ever wondered what it looks like on the roof of a Buddhist temple in Japan, here you are. Just clearing some leaves from the top. Just making a video about the police in Japan, because in my experience, every foreigner I know, basically you can be the most meek, law-abiding person in the world and you're going to have encounters with the police here. So what they like, because they've got this 99% conviction rate, so there's a lot of distrust of the police, even amongst the Japanese. But generally speaking, I find in the encounters I've had with them, I much prefer dealing with older police officers than younger police officers. I don't like having to deal with police if they look anything under 30, to be honest. I don't know, it's the same across the world. I've been stopped a number of times. They just stop, they ask to see your Gaijin card or your alien card or residence card, visa, whatever you want to call it. I got stopped by these two police one night and I got patted down. I had to put my hands against the wall and that was in central Nagasaki. They told me they were stopping me because there'd been reports of a foreigner carrying a knife in Sasebo. There's a US military base there, but it's about 40 kilometres away from where I was. But anyway, I got patted down, but they were all right. I guess they weren't like aggressive or anything, but they were just very thorough. One thing that I wouldn't even bother trying here is this thing now, especially in England, my country where I come from, and I see it in the US and stuff, is like filming policemen and refusing to answer their questions, or am I being detained and stuff. All legitimate stuff, don't get me wrong. Definite abuse of power by a lot of police for a while, so it's good this stuff is happening and you can film it now and that. But anyway, that aside, in Japan, I don't know, I just don't think it would work. You just get in a load of trouble, because one thing I had which was a bit sinister when I first got here, first couple of years, because I did this modelling stuff and that, so I was kind of known, as it were, in Nagasaki, not Bush-san the Horn at all, and it's really no big deal, a known foreigner in a small Japanese city, it's a slow clap. But anyway, that aside, I was kind of known because I've been on the front of magazines and stuff. And these police kept on coming to my apartment. I get a knock on the door and I couldn't see who it was. There was no intercom, so I had to open the door and there'd be police standing there. And it was always, we want to check who it is living here. And I was like, well, and one thing, I just don't get lippy or anything. I found the best way of dealing with a lot of authorities in Japan, I call it doing my Columbo. I just pretend I'm a bit vague and I don't know what's going on. And they sort of look, silly foreigner, and they help you out. But getting it shirty or something just doesn't work. But yes, they kept like, oh, we want to just check who's in this flat and stuff. And eventually my wife was in, and she said my wife did get shirty with them, and they backed off. But she was like, why do you have to keep coming here asking the same question? What the neighbour's going to think and stuff. Which, fair enough. It doesn't look very good. But another time, my youngest came back from school. She was only about 8 at the time, and she said some guy had grabbed her arm. It turned out in the end it was some friend of the family who grabbed her arm and said, give my regards to your grandma, and scooted off. But at the time, my daughter came back and said, oh, Daddy, someone tried to grab my arm. So I grabbed her, I went out looking for this Jimmy. And then we called the police and that. And the police were there, but this one guy, and again, young officer, they were sort of taking down my daughter's details and they had a police artist there, really good, they were really good and thorough, I say, before it turned out what actually happened, which was a bit embarrassing. But this one young guy kept coming up to me and asking me questions about what I was doing and how long I'd been in Japan and that. First I thought it was just routine, and then he kept coming back up to me like this, doing this thing they do, like this, like there was some doubt about what I was saying, Oh, you say you work at the temple. I was like, I don't say I work at a temple, I do work at a temple, Again, my wife got this thing, when she's about to lose it, she goes white around here. And that's my cue to go and run behind something solid. And it's not shout, but just comes out really directly at this police officer, and he didn't ask me another question. Other times I was stopped. I didn't stop for the mandatory 3 seconds at a stopping, which I didn't know you had to do, a pedestrian crossing. I mean, I stopped to a dead cool. There's no one around that. This policeman came out and I got a fine for that. I had to go for a 2-hour lecture at the police station and that. But, it was a bit strict, but technically speaking, I did break the law, so no big deals there. And the police were fine. But, yeah, and this, again, young police officer, I went out a while back. I went out early in the morning, about 6:30, to get a canister of coffee. And this copper, he just looked like he'd had a rough night, and he was giving me the deafs there. He was only about 25, and he started just looking at me all the time, radioing in, and he was growling something to a speaker, and he was saying the word Gaijin. I said Gaijin several times, and I was like, oh, what is going on here? So I went to this convenience, bought this coffee, and sort of scooted back, you know. But no, sometimes, especially younger ones, you know, certain men or women or certain people just shouldn't have a uniform like that, or especially shouldn't be carrying a gun. But I knew this one guy. He was drunk in town. They got stopped by the police over something, and he tried to grab this copper's gun, and so they beat him like near unconscious with their truncheons, and chucked him in the cell. And somehow he managed to stay in Japan because he's got this really like difficult technical job which only he can do or something. But his employer had to pay a massive fine, and they'd do a full-on massive apology and stuff. 'Cause, I mean, he tried to grab this copper's gun. We said to him afterwards, he was in this bar all subdued still with the bruises from his beating. And we were like, what were you thinking of? You know, you were lucky they didn't shoot you. The other police didn't shoot you. He said, oh, I thought it was just, he was a Scandinavian guy. He goes, oh, I thought it would be funny, just a joke. It's like, no, man, you can't go around trying to grab, you know, police officers' guns. It doesn't work. But yeah, so they were quite lenient then. So yeah, I guess good and bad of everyone. But generally speaking, if I count the police, as I've got older, it's kind of one of the good things about getting older is I've got less of an ego or whatever, or prickly. I'm quite happy to do it. So I do it to Columbo, like, oh, sorry, what's going on, like that. And there was this, okay, let's help the guy out. I've had this before, especially if I go to the town hall, I've got to fill in a form or something. It just makes it that much easier. So yeah, anyway, that was my, I could tell other stories about dealing with the police. I don't know whether to tell this one or not. Well, a guy I knew, he said the police, these two Japanese guys, one hit his wife. He was waiting in the car, his wife went to get burgers, and these two guys were drunk. And one got up and slapped his wife, who's Japanese. And so he ran out of his car and he went and he decked the guy, he thumped him, which is exactly when the police turned up. Apparently they hauled him into the cell, and they were trying to sweat him all night, them sitting at a desk with a confession like in front of him. He was going to admit all responsibility. And apparently one blew smoke in his face. They were smoking around him, and then one spat in his face. He said, I've no reason to disbelieve him. This is a while back now. But and then his wife, you know, she managed to get a lawyer and stuff, because they were just trying to make out, like, they were trying to exonerate the two guys who actually slapped the woman. They were trying to make out, it's always this thing, if it's Japanese involved, it's horseplay, and you just didn't understand. As soon as it's Gaijin, it's, oh my god, you know, quick, deport. You know, there's always this kind of, all this, the Japanese defence, I was drunk, I didn't know what I was doing, which, you know, I've seen it in rape cases reported on the news. It's like the case gets dropped. You know, I was drunk, I've no memory of the incident or something. Or yeah, I made advances, maybe misunderstood. It's just get out of jail completely free card if you're drunk. So, well, that's my things, a few tales there of dealing with the old Keisatsu, the police there. Okay, cheers.